Then we have persons who stutter, for instance. Generally, the stuttering, we have a lot of children that can stutter for a while and then they stop stuttering. We have a visitor panelist today, Cinthia from Paraguay, a warm welcome. And she's a person who lives with this condition, and I have invited her to give us a little bit of a reflection of how it feels like to live with this condition and to suffer the types of discrimination that they sometimes suffer. I will put on my glasses, and my first question to Cinthia, what has been the impact on you of the types of discrimination that you have had to encounter during your life because of stuttering? Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Niels, and hello to everybody from Paraguay in the heart of South America. Well, I started with a stutter at the age of 6 when my parents get divorced, and it was a very severe stutter. I fell into deep depression several times in my childhood and when I was a teenager. My first attempt of suicide was with 8. Imagine a child of 8 trying to suicide himself. So the next time it was with 10, then with 12. You have to understand, at that time I couldn't speak, and I had no hope of ever getting married, for example, and that was terrible for me. I didn't have any hope of getting a well-paid work sometimes, sometime in my life. So I was in a deep depression most of my childhood and the time until 18 years, that around. And
when you meet typical persons, let's say you meet me or any other person, typical person, what advice would you give me so that I treat you in a natural and correct way? I know that sometimes typical person want to try to complete when you start a word or try to complete the sentence. What advice would you give a typical person so that we can be better human beings to somebody that stutters?
Okay, well, you know, false assumptions and negative stereotypes about stuttering still persist all over the world. I see that all the time. There are myths about stuttering, and so I would advise to inform yourselves about what is fact and what is a myth about stuttering. And for example, the practical life. If you're talking to somebody who stutters, be patient. Focus on the message and not the way the message is brought, you know, not the way it is transmitted. Don't look away. Many people do these things. And please don't make comments like slow down, calm down, take a deep breath. We know it's well intentioned, but it doesn't help us. Don't get nervous and so on. These expressions only manage to accentuate the situation. So, and for example, something typical, if you answer the phone and don't hear anything, please make sure it's not someone with stuttering problems, or don't assume that there are signal problems that happens a lot of times, and it's very frustrating for us when we call somewhere to the bank, the assurance company, and they say, please hang up and call again because there are interruptions in the call. Oh, that's very annoying for me. And now I say, no, there is not any interruption in the line, in the signal from the telephone. I am a person who stutters. But this I am doing now for 3 years. Before that, I hang up the phone and hope that somebody with more patience and a little more empathy, how you say empathy? Yeah.
Empathy.
Would answer the phone.
Thank you for that type of advice. How many stutter in the world, and what are some of the characteristics? At what age, and can they, for instance, if they learn another language, do they stutter in another language, or when they sing? Can you tell us a little bit how many stutter and different characteristics of stutter?
Of course. Well, it has been estimated that about 1% of the world's population stutters, though about 5% of children go through a period of stuttering. You know, from every 100 children, 5 will stutter. But only one of that 100 will remain a stuttering child. In the most of the cases of that all 4, it will disappear alone after 1 year, at least 1 year. Stuttering is about 3 or 4 times more common in males than females, and well, it's still a mystery. Actually, it's still a mystery, the cause of stuttering. There are very much opinions about that, but something that's how you say that. Well, the scientific say that it is genetic in 67% of the people, and there are environmental factors and emotional factors too, but it's not psychological, it's physiological, neurological. So the understanding of that would help many people to understand better our situation, because in Latin America, especially, I don't know how it's in Europe and so, but here people, for example, still think that we are in some way retarded or stupid, how mental, because we can't say something, we can't talk fluently, and it's incredible. It's or we know perfectly what we want to say, but sometimes it doesn't come out. It's just it's amazing. I think it's incredible, and it's still a mystery, how I said already.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today, Cinthia. And what I am aware is that sometimes persons can sing, persons who stutter, when they sing, they do not stutter.
Yeah.
Or when they learn a different language, they do not stutter in the other language. Is that correct?
The first thing you said is correct, because the hemisphere of creativity is the other side of the hemisphere of the brain that occupies in the speech. So when you sing it, the creative hemisphere is over the speech hemisphere, so you don't stutter there. We don't stutter when we sing. But the language is something that has to do with speech. you know, my mother tongue is German, and I also stutter in German and now in English. My language here in South America is Spanish. I also stutter there. The only time I don't stutter is when I'm dreaming. When I speak fluently when I dream. But I have known, because I'm in several international stuttering groups, or groups formed by people who stutter. I've heard that the people who stutter another language don't stutter in that language. But it's an exception, I think. It's not the common rule.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I really thank you, Cinthia. I would invite all the remaining panelists to be on mute while we are in the session until they are invited to speak. But again, thank you so much, Cinthia, for giving us your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. And just one last recommendation for everyone that I think would be useful too. When talking to someone who stutters, use a paused rhythm yourself, without seeming unnatural or exaggeratedly slow, because a paused talk creates good communication with anyone you're talking to. So thank you very much again, and have a nice day.